Hello, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Watchers Engage. Unfortunately, Una Vandenberg is an apology for today. She's actually off sick, so you have to deal with myself. That works out. And my wonderful co-host / panelist for the day is Cecilia here. How you doing, Cecilia?
Hi, I'm good. Good. How are you, Robin? Last minute.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm not as cool as you, but I'll get there one day. I'm still trying. So, ladies and gentlemen, boy, do we have a wonderful agenda for you today. But maybe I will just kick off by just formally introducing myself. So, as mentioned, my name is Robin Lee. I'm the general manager for an anti-financial crime software platform called Hawk. Okay, we're a German company that has put together what I would like to describe as the iOS of financial crime. It's a platform which has different applications that all interact with each other and talk to each other. My background is such that, as I'm sure everybody could hear, I hail from the UK, but I actually started my career in Silicon Valley. So I was a developer for 6 years, then went to Wall Street, where for 4 years I worked in the hedge fund industry as an analyst covering technology companies. Moved here to Singapore about 15 years ago, where I've been involved in the financial crime space since. I've done a number of things in this space. I've been on the education side. I had a startup. That startup was acquired by a law firm here in Singapore, so did some time in the law firm, which is actually where I had the pleasure of working with Una. And then I've also ran the Southeast Asia financial crime strategy for what was Thomson Reuters, subsequently Refinitiv, now the London Stock Exchange Group. Was with a competitor to Hawks prior to joining Hawk that focused on AML, but moved to Hawk just on the basis that I really wanted to learn more about fraud, which we do. We do fraud and AML on that single platform. Fraud and scams is, well, maybe I think it'll be interesting for us, Cecilia, to break down the different types of fraud. So when we talk about first party fraud, we talk about robbing his employer. Second party fraud, someone colluding with Robin or using Robin to rob the employer, but it's going through another person. Or third party fraud, where you don't actually know who the fraudster is, which is what's driven a lot of the fraud activity today in terms of those fraud and scams. Does that make sense for these guys? I don't know. Do you think it helps or? Yeah, I guess so. All right, cool. So that's a little bit about myself. Honor and privilege to be here. We've got an action-packed show for you, so this is going to be great. But maybe we'll go over to you first, Cecilia, and you could just share a little bit about yourself and your background as well.
Yeah. Well, if you've seen a Netflix's Tinder Swindler, you know very well how I got thrown into the fraud space and that spotlight. I was defrauded back in 2018 in a romance fraud. And what was special about this is that I met him in person. We know most of these are happening online. So back in 2018, I had no idea that you could meet your fraudster in person. I always knew that, always was told that they were always these, dark figures that you didn't know on the other side of the world. And after that happened to me, I just had this very clear sense of justice and that vision of that what happened to me during the fraud, but after the fraud, which I will speak about a bit later, it can't be repeated. I didn't want anyone to have that experience. So I co-founded Love Said with Anna Rowe, which is a nonprofit to help romance fraud victims. It's a support center where we help them, step by step, take them through, reporting to police, to banks. And it's a think tank as well. So we've held several talks for police, been at Interpol. So it's been really, really nice to see that leading with the sense of the human and the victim, and especially about victim behavior as well. A lot of times we talk about the criminal behavior and how are they doing what they're doing, but how are we behaving as well? Are there signs that we can't see? So my background is actually in tech and UX design. So for a decade, I was making, I was interviewing users, and sometimes I was working for a bank in Norway before all this happened to me. And I knew about the strength of digital identity. I knew what debt can do to you. I knew about all of these things, and it still happened to me. And I think it's super, super important that all of us are coming together, are understanding that this can happen to anyone. So I think that has been, so after a while now, I'm coming out with a book as well, now in August, and I'm coming out with a new Netflix show too, where I'm helping other victims. So it's been great to be along the journey. And I'm now an advisor for Charm Security as well, where we are looking at, can we create an AI that are an expert in human vulnerabilities? Can we create an AI that can actually see if someone being socially manipulated? Because we will lie, we will pretend everything's fine in front of the bankers. It's super important. And how can we break the spell? Because when I was under that spell, I was not acting like myself, but how could they know that? So that is what I'm up to these days.
Fantastic, and really great work that you're doing there, especially with, I mean, the one statistic that really hit home for me is that the amount of money currently lost to fraud and scams is 4 times the rest of financial crime combined. That's AML, terrorist financing, everything in that bucket. So yeah, very good.
It is staggering, and I don't like it, but that at least we are talking a lot more about it, and we see what the issues are. At least we can do something about it. That's how I view it. Before, I think not like that, but a lot of the times the victims then took all the hits. So then it was like, who are the true? There are no victims because we could blame ourselves. And I don't mean it like that, but I feel like we're heading a bit in the right direction. For example, in Australia with the fraud framework, there are different things that we are doing to actually combat it on a bigger scale. So that's great.
And we need to. I mean, just for the audience here, just to share an extra perspective, the fraudsters. I mean, in Southeast Asia, we talk a lot about the scam centers, right? And regular people being kidnapped and forced to scam accordingly. And the latest bunch of intel suggests that they're no longer kidnapping regular people. They're going to Stanford. They're going to MIT. They're promising computer science PhDs, fantastic jobs in Singapore with a detour in another country, kidnapping these guys and making them create deep fake algorithms or other what we call adversarial AI, right? AI being used by the bad guys to scam, essentially. And the challenge is with your traditional deep fake, it could be Robin talking to Cecilia, but Cecilia sees Jennifer Lopez, for example, right? And I'm moving, I'm talking, I'm doing all of this, and then she sees Jennifer on the other side of the screen. The latest version of these deepfake algorithms do not require Robin to puppet Jennifer. Jennifer will operate autonomously and interact with Cecilia. So the challenge there is that AI can now scale, essentially.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For me, I think it's very interesting because we talk a lot about, okay, you were stupid or you should have realized. And I feel throughout all of it, when will we then say, okay, you couldn't have known that was a deep fake? Because still now people are saying, well, you should have realized that was a deep fake. So I think no matter what, how good it will be, the victims will still be blamed. Because like mine, who I met in person, I was blamed. The online ones, of course, get the blame because they never met them. With these deep fakes now, we have a lot of these questions like, my God, what are we going to do now that we won't know? And I just have this feeling that no matter what, it will be kind of, you should have understood that. But they're getting so dangerously accurate, and that is where I'm sitting, like, who will take the hit for that? Who will take the blame? That is like, what are we going to do then?
Okay, so let's see here. We have as I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, we have a number of fantastic participants who will be joining us and talking about a variety of topics here. So first up, let's bring on Tigran Rossamian.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. Yeah, I was just listening it up. It's very, very stunning to get the ideas of from both of you. So my name is Tigran. I'm founder of AML Incubator. We are a fractional compliance outsourcing firm. We're based in Canada, but we work globally. We do have branches in Dubai, Poland, Armenia, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and some of them I don't even know, but I pay for these offices. But yeah, so we work globally. We do AML ATF mainly. We help fintech and smaller firms to be regulated and compliant. We help with licensing and designing custom AML programs for all of them. We use all the vendors and softwares that you guys are creating. Probably I'm going to reach out to Hawk after our conversation, and we're going to talk. Anywho, so the whole idea for me to touch base on today was the rise of fractional compliance leadership. So a couple of things I want to mention about it.
Let me just stop you there for a moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want this to be as bilateral an interaction as possible. So, if anyone has any questions throughout the whole session, right, for Cecilia, Tigran, myself, please don't be afraid to pop them into the comments, right? We would love to hear from you. Sorry, Tigran, back to you. Take it away.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you have questions, let me know. You can leave me here in the stage as well. I'll help answer some of them if you need to. So let me just touch base on a couple of things that I think is very relevant with my small message that I want to give out to the audience. The topics are the rise of fractional compliance leadership. So fractional compliance leadership is rising because startups don't really need full-time regulators. They need smart, targeted oversight that scales with them. It gives them senior level decision making without the headcount burden and brings compliance to the table early, not just when it's too late, really. Just like companies brought in the fractional CFOs, lawyers, fractional accountants, compliance is the next step. It's a common trend. Now, if you guys have no questions, I assume I'll move forward and talk about why crypto compliance is growing up fast as well. Crypto compliance is...
Maybe I'll jump in for a question here. And this is just literally coming up with these off the top of my head, Tigran, but I think it's interesting nevertheless, right? I mean, wouldn't the antithesis to this be that if you need a fractional compliance officer, then, and I'm sure you get asked get this thrown up a lot, then why enter financial services, right? Because surely one of the, I mean, you might as well go make an app that tells you how many times a day you pick your nose or something, right? Because if you want to enter financial services, which is serious, right, because you're dealing with people's money, then surely you should have a dedicated compliance officer. Now, this isn't my personal opinion, but I'm sure you get asked this, right? People.
Sorry, I just want to understand the question, though. Like, what is the question? If why do we need it?
Okay. So I've been in this game for a while, right? And every time the concept of compliance getting outsourced or minimal compliance officers are installed, the perception by a lot of people, including some regulators, is that you're not taking compliance seriously, right?
Oh,
and
that's
your rebuttal on that.
Got it. No, that's a wonderful point that you're bringing, Robin. It's totally opposite. Okay, when you are having a fractional compliance outsourced, and you have fractional compliance as your department, technically speaking, they need to have the proper credentials, proper experience, and ability to run compliance, not just for one firm, but for many. Okay. Our expertise, for example, far beyond is better than the ones that you would be actually having in-house. I'll tell you more so. The simple example, okay? Typically speaking, when we go into the different companies, when we are hired, we're not hired because of the cost effectiveness of our business model. We are hired because of lack of expertise. We come in, we see that there is a department with 300 people, okay? and we see that it's deficient. We fixed that up. We hired 4, and we run it better than these 300 people. Okay, that's what fractional compliance outsourcing is. Now, needless to say, very important, you have limits. You cannot abuse it. One individual cannot be the acting chief compliance officer for 200 firms. You will not be able to handle it. Okay, you need to be able to juggle in between several companies at the same time, meeting your regulatory obligations with the regulator. More so here in Canada, for example. Okay, our regulator likes fractional compliance outsourcing firms because they know what they do. Okay, any firm that is coming to Canada, any firm entering and wants essence in this jurisdiction, usually they would go to fractional compliance outsourcing firms to help them out, not just with establishing themselves in the country, but also finding the proper compliance officers for them to bring in-house. Okay, majority of our clients, they do not fully outsource their compliance to us at AML Incubator. We have a combination of both. We work in tandem.
Right. Okay, great. And actually that kind of answers the second question we have from, they've anonymized themselves. They call themselves LinkedIn user here. Okay. Oh, we have another one from LinkedIn, another LinkedIn user. What kind of SLAs or performance metrics should firms impose on fractional compliance service providers to ensure ongoing effectiveness and responsiveness?
Okay, great question. Typically, majority of the regulators have something called effectiveness review. It's an external audit to check the effectiveness of your program. Okay, if they actually pass that audit, that means that they will pass the same audit with the regulator. You're good to go. That's number one. Second thing is how effective do you prevent and mitigate stuff in your firm based on the risk-based approach. So an example would be if you're very heavy on direct losses for your company for fraud, a proper chief compliance officer that is doing and is within the fractional compliance business has to come in and stop it. Okay, you cannot just handle it just because it's like something that you put the check mark on. That's not how it works. You need to be able to show the results. Example would be we were engaged with a firm that was losing $26 million to $30 million per month on direct loss for fraud. Okay, we came in month and a half after, we decreased it to $2 million. That's an SLA. Okay, so these are metrics that you can actually measure, and also during your contract you can specify what types of ways and techniques and mechanisms do you want to put in place to measure the performance of the fractional compliance outsourcing firm and an individual that is taking over their work.
Great. And then okay, let's see here. Warren Simmons has a question. Okay, I think this is for in general here. Any view on how pig butchering gangs in Asia layer their criminal proceeds through exploiting weak immigration controls in offshore centers like Isle of Man, and using gaming, e-betting, and crypto sectors? This might tie in nicely into you were going to talk about crypto crime, right, Tigran?
I can. That's one of our expertise.
One as well.
Sorry, what's the question again? Any view on how pig butchering gangs in Asia layer their criminal proceeds through weak immigration controls to offshore centers? Okay. You touch base on 15 different things here. Pig butchering scams are there. They're happening. There are two things that is a moving force of the human nature. It's sex or love, which has the romance scam stuff happening, and greed. Okay, pig butchering scams. People are greedy. They pay. They send it. They're irrational. Okay, they want to do that. So when you're bringing, yes, Cecilie, you want to add?
Yeah, I'm just from a human perspective here. I understand that greed is one of them, but I think just to label all of these people as just greedy and that's why they're ending up in this is kind of it's just the word greedy for me that is can be kind of limiting on why should we help them? They were greedy.
Oh, no, absolutely not. You gotta help them every time they come in.
Yeah.
However, it is penetrated in them. Okay, So romance scams, pig butchering scams, investment scams, they're two moving natures of human behavior that is being penetrated by criminal actors. And that's why we have this. Weak immigration controls. I have no idea what's that to do with the pig butchering scams. I will be very honest with you. I don't really have a lot of expertise there. I do believe that you're referring to when people get kidnapped, like Robin was stating, and they make them sit and make the calls and do these scams. I don't really believe that's more of an immigration thing. I do believe overall, from my opinion, I might be wrong. It's more of when it comes to crypto, is educational thing. Hey, don't send your crypto to someone you don't know. Don't, if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true. Things like that, rather than immigration or governments are taking over some of the controls there and preventing it. Maybe I might be wrong, but again, these are my intakes from all of this. So
okay, and maybe I'll add one aspect where okay, so Warren, I'm going to touch on the human. I think I spoke to that, right? Where we're seeing individuals being promised awesome, so individuals who are like computer science PhDs being offered awesome jobs in Singapore with a detour in another country, and then they get trafficked in that country to make these algorithms, like I described earlier. But one other thing I will add, Warren, is that there's this. If you want to talk about the layering of the money, right? There are enablers out there that have like big powerful computers, right? Like hard drives with servers with amazing processors, like usually GPU processors that will take your crypto and then send it to like, and embedded in this will have like, I don't know, like thousands of wallet addresses, send them all around so that it's really tough to trace the source of that crypto, and then spit it out into a privacy coin. That privacy coin then can get flipped on a decentralized exchange to regular Bitcoin, and then boom, it's tough to trace that, because your average RegTech application that is out there to trace these devices can only go like 3, 5, sometimes 8 hops tops, right? But when you have thousands of hops involved in that, it's really tough to buy that. Sorry, Cecilia, go ahead.
Can I just very quickly just come in, and it's not technical, but sometimes for me language matters so much on how we talk about the victims and why they're doing what they're doing. I think we do ourselves a disfavor if we continue to say it was too good to be true. They should have understood. They're greedy. I just want to finish. Because for me, when we're continuing that, we're placing the responsibility of this on victims. I feel we have to say they were manipulated, coerced, abused. They were targeted by highly professional criminals, and that's why they were doing what they were doing. I think trying to humanize this tech world and this financial world, this is what we need to do, because let's see where we're at when we are continuing just to say they should have just realized it. But what do we mean by that? That I totally get it. I should have too, what I'm trying to say is that you are not yourself when you're going through this, and we should be able to build something to detect that. I just wanted to come with
no, fantastic. Thank you for that, Cecilia. Okay, next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Luz Mabel Del Val, sorry if I mispronounced that, who's here to join us to discuss navigating AML compliance with AI-driven solutions. So, hey, welcome. Oh no, we got John.
It's actually me.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, John. Sorry.
Okay, so thank you to AML Watcher. Thank you, Robin and Hawk, and nice to meet you, Cecilia.
Hi, nice to meet you.
I was asked to prepare a question for this, which was a bit technical, but I'm going to put it into a more human question. So this is about the issue of gullible people in the West, and specifically Russian intelligence tricking gullible people in the West. My adversary, I'm a whistleblower from a bank connected with Vladimir Putin in Latvia, which got looted 20 years ago. I've been in exile actually for this time. And my adversary is a multilateral development bank called the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Now, this bank, if you will look at their website, has hundreds of pages about how they love whistleblowers, they love transparency, they don't care about profits because their focus is on making the world better. It goes on. And when you have an actual dealing with this bank, what they do is so opposite to what they say they're doing that it's shocking, but it somehow tricks everybody. And in this case, after the assets were embezzled from this bank, which was identified by a European court as Vladimir Putin's money launderer, the Latvian government secretly paid the EBRD Development Bank to invest into the bank to make it appear that the bank was not looted, even though it was. And evidence has come out from, I have letters and emails from Eurostat in the European Union and the SFO in the UK that they're aware that Latvia and the EBRD are doing this. However, they're waiving the normal accounting rules for them, saying that this act where Latvia secretly paid the EBRD to pretend to invest in a looted bank in order to make the bank appear that it's not looted was okay because it's somehow in the public interest, and the EBRD is interested in society and not interested in greed, to use that word. But somehow by framing everything as that they are all altruists, even though what they're doing is serious organized crime, and that they're against greed, that somehow this is cover for them, and it seems to fool everybody. So how to fix this in the West? Or is there some way to wake up Western people, including AML professionals, that when someone's talking about altruism all the time, that maybe you should look deeper to see what their real motives are?
Yeah, I feel like we had a bit of a chat before it started, and I always trying to say, like, the people who talk the loudest about the great work that they're doing, a lot of time they're just trying to hide kind of what's really happening behind the scenes. Like, you're a whistleblower, I'm a whistleblower too. I know, like, I think when you've been part of it and you can see it, what is really going on, and when you can see the dirty business of it all, it tends to be quite jarring. And I think for myself, who's been one individual in all of that, it has been kind of difficult, because I think as a victim as well, when you've been a victim of something, you're not being, and in this case, you're not being viewed as someone that is smart. You are stupid, or gullible. This is why it happened to you. To then get that notion out about this is not right, what is going on, there are something deeper here. It's been really, really difficult to have those questions up in the air. I don't know if that, but it's just my little 2 cents from my own experience.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, a lot of the stuff about, whether you blame the victim or you blame the perpetrator. I mean, a lot of Latvians will tell you that it's my fault that I'm in exile because I couldn't shut up and I did this whistleblowing. So this is my fault. And I say, well, I thought it was the fault of the people who stole the money from the bank that this whole thing happened. I didn't think it was my fault for reporting it. But there's a lot of this twisting around and a lot of psychological stuff about how I must be a bad person because I'm against the EBRD. And since the EBRD wrote on their website that they are heroes, then I must be against all the wonderful things they're doing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think when you speak up highly about something you've seen, you will always get some, I will say, enemies. But my fraudster has a lot of enemies too. So I think no matter what, when you put yourself out there, for example, in my case, there was one bank that this criminal was his favorite bank. Not going to name it now, but I sent in a lot of documents to this bank and they were all approved. I put it in now into a very simple AI identification of documents engine, nothing special. And they could see that they were fake. And I got hit by that because I was like, you expected me, to be able to see all the red flags, but as a major bank, you approve these documents they are very clearly fake. So like kind of the procedures that I sometimes see in the financial institutions are not up to the standards at all. And
well, this is a very good point about banks that show off how compliant they are by the huge number of people they have in the compliance department. But then you send in obviously fraudulent or money laundering transfer through the bank, and all of them miss it every single time. So it's sort of that they're all for show and they're not really looking for anything.
Yeah. And I think
I could argue the other way though, John. I mean, look, ultimately, right, we are up against the human mind, right? And there is no AI, no number of people like as humans, we're messed up like that, right? When there's a will, there's a way, we figure out. And the criminals are probably right up there in terms of determination and figuring this out. And they're smart. Let's be real, right? They're smart as well, right? So I think this will be an ongoing challenge, and you know, I wouldn't be so negged out on the banks from that front, because I've got a lot of friends in the banking space, a lot of friends who are heads of compliance, etc. They're trying hard, right? They're trying to bring in the latest technologies. They're trying to hire different types of people. The latest trend that we're seeing is that they're combining fraud and AML departments working together to try and not only try and prevent the fraud, but to figure out where the money is getting laundered after once it's happened. Yeah. I just think that because we're up against some very smart people, it's not easy, right?
But I think this is the issue, that when you are coming with critique, I don't mean that they're not doing anything and that everyone's bad and I hate banks. I have just some insider information that wasn't quite good when it comes to the protection, I know a lot of banks are doing great work, but
and that's actually more directed to John's comment, because to add to your comment as well, Cecilia, I mean, these criminals are psychology experts, right? They know how to get in your brain. They've studied all the latest techniques. And with that example that I gave earlier, they're feeding that information into the adversarial AI to work your brain, on an automated front, right? So I agree with both of you to a degree, but I think we have to recognize what we're up against here, right?
Well, thank you both for positive comments. And I agree that there are some people really trying to stop the AML. There's other people just holding on to their desks who don't want to see the unpleasant information, but there are some people out there fighting it. And and about the psychology, how the criminals are psychologists and they trick people. They know exactly where the weaknesses are and they can trick everybody. It's something to think about as well. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, next up we have Lutz this time. We have him for reals. So Lutz, come and join us and take the stage, sir.
Hey, hello, good morning.
Ma'am, sorry. I apologize.
So, no, it's okay. So, I'm Luz del Valle. I'm working in Puerto Rico with plenty of fintechs and international banking in the field of compliance, risk management, and risk monitoring. And today we're just talking about what are those AML challenges and that we're facing out with the AI role in driving what is the scalability and efficiency in this nowadays regarding with the complexity that the compliance and AML have lately in this 2025. Because AML is no longer what is regulatory tick box. It's more a strategy for business driver. Right now, it's just not only what is my cost of being compliant, is because it is pretty hard right now to try to be in compliance with regulator, but not invest in a technology that will make you successful with the compliance, with the emerging technologies that we have, with the emerging risks that are facing regarding crypto scams, crypto criminals that are using the system and the burdens that right now we have in that is a challenge. And the regulator have really high expectations that every financial institution evolve and fight the risk with technology, because right now what we are facing is an evolution with technology to make the crimes. So now in the aspect of financial institution need to invest in that in technology to fight for those crimes. So as the regulatory complexity is greater, there are more stricter global regulations, and we are facing false positive increase if we do not tune up our system in a better way to be sure that that we can face those regulatory requirements. Those emerging threats, apart from the crypto scam, we are facing ransomware, crowdfunding typologies, just to mention a few. And we're also facing the resource constraint, because we need in the institution we need to face what is that balance between the cost of being compliant with the operational efficiencies. Because if we are not balance, that will be face an institution that will drive in all the resources to compliance, and that is not the purpose as well, because every institution need to be profitable. They do to their investors, they are due to their customer, because they need to have a stable institution. And if we don't balance what those costs in compliance are within regarding with the profitability, and that profitability, as the cost of compliance increases, we need to be sure that we can scale the business to generate more profit, and we can use the compliance as a driver to increase those profitability.
This is great.
And that
great, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Actually, this is from what you're describing and sharing, I think this is a great opportunity to answer a question from Priyanka Rai here, who's come up with and hey Priyanka, I actually know her personally. Shout out to Priyanka here. And her question for you is: as AI rapidly transforms the AML CFT landscape, offering both advanced detection and new risks, criminals are finding increasingly sophisticated ways to exploit these same technologies for financial crime. In real time, how can compliance officers leverage tools to not only react to red flags, but actively engage with frontline teams and external stakeholders, crowdsourcing atypical cases or suspicious patterns? And what practical strategies do you recommend for compliance teams to act as effective? Great long question, but I think Lewis has answered some of it. But if you want to continue, then I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, in fact, we need to search for a good system that incorporate AI, so we can in first download what are those false positive to get more time in our actual resources without hire more person, because sometimes you will need a battalion of persons to manage only the day-to-day volume of transactions or suspicious activity report. But the real challenge is to acquire one system that incorporate AI, that help you to manage what are those false positive, and what is that a system that can predict what will be the pattern of your customer. In fact, to download that downgrade that volume of the potential false positive becoming the real positive, and incorporate as well the uh, the identification of those activities that the customer are not used to do, and just doing in a real time monitoring system. Because right now what we need to be is one step ahead of those criminals that are trying to use the financial system to perpetrate these crimes. So my recommendation is, and there are many. Go to have it one system that provides you a real-time monitoring, that provides you predictive analysis, and reduce those false positives that just only create noise around the day-to-day compliance, and reallocate that time that you're saving with the financial intelligence unit team, so they can do their deeper analysis, their investigation.
Thank you so much for that, Liz. Hey, Liz, thank you. That's great. And for everybody on the line here, just as a quick like summary, right? When Liz is talking about reducing false positives, she's the actual type of AI she's talking about using is what we call machine learning, right? Where the system learns a particular pattern, a particular way of reducing of automating that process and reducing that operational cost, essentially, right? And it's something that we actually offer at Hawk, as well as the concept of anomaly detection, where if you have as much data on the customer sitting in the same place, you use what we call a deep learning algorithm to identify stuff that a human might not necessarily be able to pick up, and then they will do that as well. Hey, Cecilia,
yeah,
you wanted
just very quickly.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just think I just think it's so interesting, because like what I love most about like these AI driven solutions is, as I say a lot of the times, yeah, they will be able to see the cues that I feel sometimes humans won't be able to see. They will have the patience, and they can have kind of the empathy. We can kind of, what I would like to do more of is having more of an active and human informed way of doing this, where, for example, you can put more context into, for example, if there is a transaction that is flagged, the people on the ground in the call centers that are sometimes maybe speaking to someone, will they be able to kind of pick up if they're distressed? Will they be able to pick up these type of things if they're sitting there being annoyed? But I'm very excited about actually using it for good, and that we can actually hopefully see some of the signs that we would have ignored. So
I would add to that, Cecilia, and say that humans plus AI is more effective than just AI by itself. Like, so never take out human in the loop. It's RoboCop, not Terminator, right? that's the way we should approach this. So hey, thank you so much for your time, Luz. We're gonna move to our next guest, who is Mangalisa. So thank you, Luz. Really appreciate it for your time. Really good stuff there. And let's move on to Mangalisa. Mangalisa, are you in the vicinity? Hello? Hello? Oh, wow. Okay. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, while you're on the line, please do keep those questions flowing, right? We have some wonderful guests here. We can still answer any of the questions that some of the previous guests may have burned. So please. So while we're waiting for Mangalisa, hey, do you want to just comment, Cecilia?
Yeah, I see one question there where I would like, no, is she here? Are you here?
Hello?
No.
Mangalisa? Guess not.
Anyways, that was a fake start. But I saw one question is like, what are the early psychological indicators that a person may be under real-time manipulation, such as in pig butchering scams or remote access fraud? And for me, this is like it's so close to my heart, because it's all about just human behavior. And I would say we are changing, but sometimes not as quickly and as visible at times, but they will install a bit of sense of urgency or anxiety. A lot of the times we have been told what to say when we decide to call in or do a transaction, or it will be stopped. A lot of the times as well, if we are in a new relationship or if we see a new investment opportunity or someone has come into our life, we will be overly, positive or idealistic. A lot of the times, the fraudsters will kind of tell us what to say. So we will have some scripted phrases. And that's how I always try to say, now we are creating this AI at Charm. I'm always like, what do we do when people are lying? A lot of times you won't say, I have a boyfriend of 2 weeks. They will say, if you say that, you won't be able to send the transfer. And we want to be able to send the transfer. So we are lying. How can we detect lies? And I think that is really interesting. Like, now that we have machine learning and AI, and like we have all these things, are there a way? And I love kind of looking into that, because sometimes we are not honest. When I took up the loans, I didn't say that I was taking up loans to send to my boyfriend who was in danger of his enemies. That would have been, I said it was renovating my house. So I think it's really interesting how with time now, they will really manipulate us to, try to sound as convincing. But there are several things here in different ways, both in behavior, our change of both spend and the language. But yeah, it's, as I say, this is not easy. And I that is what I always feel like when I've been doing talks and I have sometimes banking employees, the main question they have, how do we get them to break the spell? How do I get them to understand they're being defrauded? And that breaks my heart, because it's not one glove fit all, because we all are different with our behaviors, our pasts, just how we are as personalities. Some people are a bit more gullible and naive, but that is not a crime. I always try to go back to that. Yeah, it might be qualities that makes us more susceptible for fraud, but that doesn't make it something that we should just, let them be gone with whatever they're doing because they're being gullible. But yeah.
But it reminds me of our discussion prior to going live, right? I mean, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who aren't aware, I'm the vice chair for the APAC chapter for the Global Coalition to Fight Financial Crime. And for our first conference in Singapore a couple of years ago, we had the honor of having Cecilia come up and give a talk. So if anyone does get the opportunity to see Cecilia talk, please do jump on it. It's fantastic. And we were sharing earlier, right? One of the examples that was given prior to Cecilia going on stage was the example of the Japanese lady who was scammed 300 grand on the basis that her quote unquote boyfriend was stuck on the moon, needed 300 grand to get back to Earth, and she paid it, right? And when this was shared in the conference, there was a lot of snickering, a lot of laughter, and Cecilia got up and said, "Look, it's not funny. Yeah, like I said earlier, these guys really do know how to work your brain, and we shouldn't be laughing at this." And it was a fantastic, stop the audience, cut the tension, and
I do understand why we want to make it a bit lighter, because it's very heavy stuff that we are talking about at times. But I was at a conference in London last year too, and it was really interesting to see. There was an ethical hacker that was on stage, and he said, if I'm going to get money, the quickest way is to pretend to be a young, beautiful woman and go on Tinder. And the entire audience were laughing. And I'm sitting there, and this is a 50-50 split crime. This is not a gendered crime. There is just as much like men as women. And I think it makes me really irked. Why would anyone come forward and ask the man who might be sitting in that audience who have been defrauded? And everyone's just laughing at him. We all deserve love. We all deserve connection. And we're all vulnerable when we're out there. That is just human nature, and we need to trust. And I think that is why it hits me so hard, because me with my own story, I've been laughed at. So I think it just hits a very personal perspective when yeah.
And actually, we have a question from LinkedIn user, an anonymous question here, asking for a little more detail on how you got defrauded. So it's great time here, so please do share it.
Yeah. Well, I'd recently moved to London, and I think that is part of what we should be bringing into our KYC. I was not viewed as a vulnerable person. I, had a master's. I was a young woman. I was just on Tinder, but I was new in London. I had no family and friends around me. So when I matched up with this guy, I just felt incredibly lucky. He was the CEO of a big diamond company, and we met in person several times, and he became my boyfriend. Unfortunately for me, he was in a very dangerous position at his job because he's gotten threats from his competitors, but everything was going to be fine. Unfortunately, nothing went better. Just went worse. And after a while, he said that he couldn't use his credit cards anymore because his enemies could see where he was. Hindsight is a gift here. The amount of questions I should have asked. I always think about the 5 whys a lot of times. If we ask, but why are you in this position? If you continue to ask the why questions and people are lying, it won't make sense. So I wish I would have done that, but I didn't because I trusted him. So I gave him a credit card and he started to use it. Fortunately for me, I got a lot of credit because he employed me in his company, and those were fake. So at the end of it, I had in the end taken up 9 loans and over £200,000 in just 54 days. So it was an incredible amount of money. The interest on these loans were super high. So I had to both sell my flat, I had to file for bankruptcy, I was made a suspect with the UK police, and I was taken to court by 4 banks in Norway because I couldn't pay my debt. So my journey afterwards, and that is why I'm always trying to protect people from re-victimization and what can happen afterwards, is hugely important. Because the fraud was one thing, that was 6 months. I'm still bankrupted, That's 7 years after. I can't get a credit card. I can't get a mobile phone on a payment plan. If I rent, I have issues. These are very long-term problems that you have, of course. But of course, the emotional part as well, where, well, yeah, I thought he was my boyfriend, and kind of he cheated on me as well because he had a lot of other women that he was boyfriend with. So I think that as well is another layer to these type of crimes that very few people are really listening to, because it's more about the money lost. Because I think when this happened to me, the question I got the most was, how could you do this? And I really wanted to rewire the questions, not how I could do this, but how could he do this? Why was it so simple and easy for him to travel around the world on a fake passport? How could he use my credit card? How could he pay with my credit card on sites where he shouldn't have? There were just so many where I wish there was more friction, more stops, more time to pause, more time to have a breather, because they put you under so much pressure and stress that you're not thinking clearly. So that is the short form of it. But yeah. So
and for those of you who are interested, it's actually a documentary on Netflix called The Tinder Swindler, and that's actually based on Cecilia here. So
yeah, I was, because when I wasn't taken seriously, when a lot of fraud victims, we go and try to report it to the police, sometimes they view that as civil. This was your boyfriend, so he couldn't have defrauded you. Well, I mean, like, people will do a lot to defraud people. They will pretend to be your boyfriend. It's the intent, but it's difficult to prove intent. How do you prove that someone didn't love you if they say, well, I did? And I think that is what we're up against. So I decided to go to the press when I felt that no one was taking my story seriously. That was back in 2019. And then the Netflix documentary came in 22. So I recommend everyone to watch it. I think it's beautifully made. I think it shows the true consequence, what happens afterwards, how you're feeling. I can say I was put into acute psychiatric ward by my mom because she didn't dare to take care of me anymore because she was scared what I was going to do, because I knew I'd lost everything. And I think my worst fears came true when, the police went after me and the banks went after me and looked at me as the culprit here, where I say, like, I think we shot ourselves in the foot by doing that for several years, because I can see where we are as a society when this is the #1 crime. But I think it's been viewed as victimless, that there are no one that actually is taking the hit. You know, the banks is just reimbursing the money. And I want to say, as an advocate on behalf of victims, I'm super glad that the banks are reimbursing victims, but that I don't want it to happen in the first place. And that is what I'm not like that. I'm saying like, oh, now we get our money back, so no worries. This is horrible for the people that are experiencing it. And I thank you so much for the nice comments. I think it's just so important to humanize this crime. It's people are being taken advantage of, and the money are not being lost into nothing. And we don't want this money to end up in criminals' hands too. I have sometimes people are saying, well, you were naive, and kind of it's not Simon's fault. Simon was the name of the fraudster. But I am just saying that being naive is not a crime. What he did to me was a crime. And I think we need to be much more patient and nice to each other when we talk about fraud victims. It's called The Tinder Swindler. And my new Netflix show, Love Con Revenge, where I'm now helping other victims, which is really, really nice. Because the more stories we have, and I believe in storytelling, I believe that can really change things, that we know about all the different types of fraud types that is out there, you know, the new tactics that they're using, the new trends we need to know, and being able to give that to others is really, yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, let me check. Okay, we have a lot of wonderful comments here. Yeah. I don't see any questions per se. So maybe what I'll do is I'll wrap it up right now and say, look, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this webinar. Again, apologies, Una couldn't be here, but I we tried. We
did very well, Robin, I have to say. You took it.
So look, we covered the technology aspect and how AI could be used for good and for bad. We covered the potential solutions. We covered AML and fraud and the convergence of that and how that's important. We covered what this means for compliance officers, and last but by no means least, and I think this is the most important part, we covered the human aspect of this. Okay, and let's not lose that, ladies and gentlemen, in our day-to-day work and move forward. So again, thank you for attending. Watchers, engage. Again, this will be there'll be many more of these to follow. Please give your feedback. Please be in touch, and we will continue to grow this community and host these shows accordingly. Thank you all so much for your time. Good night.
Thank you.